We welcome you, Eagles everywhere, to the NovaCare Complex in South Philadelphia. Our coverage of the Philadelphia Eagles 2021 continues, courtesy of DraftKings. And we see the security guard, Boston Scott, making his way around the Eagles roster, settling in next to Dallas Goedert as the Eagles go through their stretch. I'm Eagles insider Dave Spadaro, along with Fran Duffy. Hi, Fran.
Hi, Dave. It's a beautiful day on Thursday.
Beautiful Thursday out there. Eagles getting ready for Sunday's game against the LA Chargers, coming off that big win against the Detroit Lions. And we are continuing our coverage of the Philadelphia Eagles here, again, presented by DraftKings. We're happy to have you with us here on this Thursday as the 3-5 Eagles get ready for the 4-3 Chargers. Fran, before we talk about the Chargers, Sunday in Detroit, about as perfect as you can get, right?
No doubt. I mean, when you see that level of dominance on both sides of the football, the Eagles won the line of scrimmage on both sides. That led to 200-plus yards rushing, 6 sacks, 4 in the first half. I thought the defense and offensive lines did an outstanding job against Detroit, and some guys stepped up and made some plays, right? We saw the running backs obviously do an outstanding job. The linebackers were really aggressive downhill. So I thought the wins at the line of scrimmage helped others do their jobs well.
Yeah, for sure. And Nick Sirianni's always talked about that. It's obviously a football ideal. You win at the line of scrimmage, everything else works. And the Eagles, certainly on the offensive side, ran the football with great authority, great conviction, great confidence. Boston Scott and Jordan Howard combining for 117 yards, 4 touchdowns on 24 carries, Fran. Eagles doing it in the red zone in short yardage. They played in front of the sticks on offense and on defense, and it made so much of a difference. We saw Jonathan Gannon bring some pressure. We saw the Eagles with some pre-snap motion defense. We saw the Eagles defense playing with a lead, and we've talked about this. It's only the second time the Eagles have led at halftime this season. The Atlanta game is the other instance, and we saw just what this team is capable of doing when it has a lead.
Yeah, when this defense is built on trying to stop aggressive offenses, and obviously with the line of scrimmage being what it is, when you've got Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave and Josh Sweat, and you have the young guys like Milton Williams stepping up and playing one of his best games. Now those guys can just get after the quarterback. Hassan Ridgeway getting that late sack as well, right? So seeing all of those guys being able to just cut it loose and get after the quarterback when you've got that dominant lead, that certainly leads to a lot of success.
Javon Hargrave, the numbers have cooled a bit. You seeing teams almost exclusively doubling him?
I don't know if it's exclusive, but certainly getting a little bit more attention, but the same level of play you're seeing from him. His ability to defeat blocks and get off people and make plays in the run game, affect the quarterback. Maybe the sacks haven't quite been there, but the pressures and his ability to harass opposing passers, evident every single time you turn on the film.
Fran, this Eagles defense has taken a turn toward young. We've seen it from the beginning of the season on both sides of the ball. This week, another step with the release of linebacker Eric Wilson. And the intention here is to play and really get a handle on what Davion Taylor can be and what Sean Bradley can be and where is Alex Singleton and TJ Edwards, who had such a big game. Your thoughts on the linebackers in this post-Eric Wilson period?
Sure. I think what I saw from both guys that played a lot of snaps this past week, and that was that guy right there, number 52, Davion Taylor, and from TJ Edwards, both guys were very aggressive downhill. And think about the career arc for Davion Taylor, right? I mean, the guy who was used to playing in space. He was essentially a safety or a slot corner almost for Colorado, the way he was used most often in that defense, playing out in space. So playing in the box, playing downhill, defeating blocks, playing in traffic, that's something that was a projection for him moving to the NFL. That's where you want to see him get better. And we've seen flashes over these last few weeks as his snap counts have gotten higher and higher and higher. And this past week, I thought, was maybe his best in terms of getting downhill, being aggressive, getting down and seeing things fast. And then he's got that explosiveness to be able to shoot the gap and get downhill. So I was really impressed with what we saw from Davion Taylor, and then also from number 57, TJ Edwards, right there on your screen, chatting with Nick Sirianni. When you look at Edwards and his ability to hold up blocks at the point of attack, I thought he was really good in this game. He finished as a tackler. I talked with Eagles defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon this week on Eagles game plan. Make sure you check that out. It'll go up on PhiladelphiaEagles.com on Friday. You could see just exactly what some of the little things that TJ Edwards did to help lead to his outstanding performance.
How about pass coverage in weeks to come here? Now, we're going to see a Chargers team this week that maybe won't be as easy to predict. I mean, I think, Rodney McLeod talking with me after the game for the Eagles Insider podcast said that the concentration was on Swift, the running back, and on Hawkinson, the tight end.
That's it, yep.
The Chargers come in with a really good pass-catching running back in Eckler and two great receivers in Williams and Keenan Allen, and threats at tight end as well. So at the linebacker position, maybe more it's interesting to me with Davion Taylor how he is able to expand his instincts and improve his instincts, having to make up for all that missed time. He only played one high school football game.
Yeah.
So do you anticipate that the Chargers will test the linebackers more than what the Lions did from a scheme standpoint?
It's funny because when you look at Eckler and the ways that he's used in the pass game, it's very similar to how DeAndre Swift is used by the Lions. It's a lot of the same kind of ideals. And Dan Campbell, he comes from New Orleans Saints. Where did Joe Lombardi, the offensive coordinator of the LA Chargers, come from? The New Orleans Saints, right? So similar kind of usage for those two players. So the Eagles have got some experience trying to corral some of these backs in space. A lot of those things they're going to have to carry over here to this week. Are they going to use all of the same tactics? No, they're going to try and change things up. But it's all going to be about trying to corral, get bodies to the football to get Austin Eckler down. Because while he's still a dynamic pass catcher, he's different than Swift. Because Swift, he's more dynamic and make you miss. He's shifty. Eckler can do that, but he's muscle too. I mean, he'll power right through you. We saw that on a touchdown run this past week. And so a little bit of a different test, but similar kind of ways they're going to try and attack you through the air.
The Eagles have their own pass catchers, led by right there, number 6, Devontae Smith, who last week, Fran, as the Eagles really focused on the run game and got it rolling with 236 yards, wide receivers, their responsibility was largely to block, and they did a really good job of it, and that's something you have to do in this offense. What do you see with Smith and the wide receivers against the Chargers and what they do defensively? We know the Chargers, worst in the NFL in run defense. It got better a bit against the Patriots last week for sure, but what do you think for Quez and for Rager if he plays and for Greg Ward and for Devontae Smith?
Well, I think when you look at the Chargers philosophically, they do a lot of the same things that we've seen here in Philadelphia this season under Jonathan Gannon, right? So they're going to start almost every single play, a large majority of their plays, with two high safeties. And they'll rotate down a little bit more. They'll play a little bit more single high, but they start with that two high safety shell. And what they'll do is they'll try and confuse opposing quarterbacks, try and change the look post-snap. And so now you don't always know what you're going to get. Now, those first couple weeks, they were heavy zone coverage. Then they go up against the Kansas City Chiefs. And we talked about this when the Eagles were preparing to play the Chiefs, because it was the week before the Chargers came out. They changed it all up. They went all man coverage. So they have shown that ability to go back and forth. They've got some good players on that side. And obviously, Derwin James is one of the best in the league. Joey Bosa up front, one of the best in the league. So Jalen Reagor, who we see there, all the rest of these Eagles receivers, it'll be interesting to see exactly how LA is going to try and combat them, because they can play a lot of man, or in some games, they've shown the ability to play a lot of zone as well.
And Reagor, great to see him on the practice field after suffering that ankle injury in the red zone right near the goal line early in the game against Detroit. So he is on his way back, and hopefully, as Nick Sirianni said earlier in the week, hopeful to play on Sunday against the Chargers. Eagles will need all of their weapons against the Chargers team that's coming east for the third time this year. They beat Washington in the season opener. They lost badly to the Ravens 3 weeks ago, and now Philadelphia. So it's a bit of a toll for the Chargers with all of this cross-country travel.
It's tough, yeah.
And that's really kind of, I guess, why the game is a 4 o'clock game. Give them a couple of hours to get their bodies right. They are led by young quarterback Justin Herbert, Fran, NFL's Offensive Player of the Year last year, as voted on by the Associated Press. Darius Slay and company with a very tough assignment against good receivers in L.A.
Yeah, Keenan Allen is one of the best in the league in terms of his ability to get off the jam, defeat press coverage, create separation as a route runner. He's one of the best technicians in all of football. Mike Williams, I mean, he's 6'4". He's going to dunk on you. He's got that ability to play above the rim. They use him a lot in the slot, a lot of the same Michael Thomas ways that we've seen from the Saints in the past. That's a lot of the things that Mike Williams is doing, but they'll work him more vertical down the field than what the Saints have done with Michael Thomas in the past. So that's where you're going to get there. So the Eagles corners, they're going to face some comparative complementary skill sets there with those receivers, but a big test here against the Chargers.
See, Fran Duffy has a big smile on his face because he's talking X's and O's, and you can get all the X's and O's as the Eagles get ready for the Chargers. It's the Eagles game plan. It airs on Sunday in Philadelphia at 10 a.m. on NBC 10 or on our website, app, and social media channels on Friday. Fran, what do you got going for the show?
Almost done editing. We did a lot of editing last night, and it's being worked on right now. It should be ready to go early on Friday. So early Friday afternoon it'll go out. And to me, there was so much to talk about this week. Obviously, the Eagles a big win. The Chargers a really intriguing team on both sides of the ball. So we do kind of deep dives on Derwin James and Justin Herbert from that side of things. But on the Eagles offense, you talk about that run game and Dallas Goedert getting him involved as well as he's really kind of turned in the last 2 weeks the primary pass catcher for this Eagles offense. And defensively, just what they did from aggressiveness standpoint, both blitzing and getting those linebackers downhill. A big focus here this week in the show.
Very, very excited to see what the Eagles' offensive approach is. You think, well, hey, the Chargers are last in the league in rushing defense, so run the football. Doesn't always work that way. You and I sat and spoke last week about Detroit and in the kickoff show. Talked about Detroit and how their cornerbacks are hurt and how, throw the ball. Eagles came out and pounded them. And I'm sure they could have had success throwing the ball as well. But interesting way to go about your business as we watch Greg Ward, who stepped in for Reagor last week as a punt returner, had a nice 12-yard return for the Eagles. And then we've also seen, as we watch every week here, our continuing coverage of the Philadelphia Eagles here at the NovaCare Complex presented by DraftKings. Friend, we always watch the defense punching the football out. And okay, I get it. It gets repetitive. We're watching the same thing. Then you see it in a game situation, and it's exactly what they practice. Avonte Maddox punching the football out against the Lions. Darius Slay recovering it, and the scoop and score. And ladies and gentlemen, that's why they do the practice routines. That's why they go over it day after day after day. Football is a game of repetition.
And if you go back and you just watch the replay of that play, it's not just the punch, it's also the fact you had TJ Edwards on his inside as well. So TJ Edwards is right there alongside Avonte Maddox. And that's why when you've got, what's the term they like to say? We've heard Jonathan Gannon say it, we've heard Roddy McLeod say it, population at the football. You get all those bodies there. That allows Avonte Maddox to say, he's got faith that, hey, if I miss this punch attempt, I got TJ Edwards right there. Darius Slay is right behind me. I've got Slay back there. I've got Roddy McLeod right behind me. So you've got all those guys. That's why they feel comfortable I'm going to go for this punch. I'm going to get the ball out. And then not only that, but with all the bodies there, now you've got that scoop and score opportunity. And so all those things that they preach every single day, not just in practice here, but going back to the summer, going back to the spring in OTAs. I mean, this is going to be, they call it teach tape, Dave, where it's like, all right, well, next year when they go through installations, that play is going to be on the teach tape. That's going to be one that they kind of point to and say, this is the exhibit. This is exactly what we want it to look like.
No doubt about it. Dave Spadaro, Fran Duffy with you here at the NovaCare Complex. Our continuing coverage of the Philadelphia Eagles 2021 presented by DraftKings. We are here on a beautiful, beautiful Thursday afternoon as we get ready for Sunday's Salute to Service game at Lincoln Financial Field. The Eagles planning a host of events honoring our military community. It's been happening all week here in Philadelphia at the stadium. Some tours, movie nights, sponsored events in cooperation with the Tri-State Toyota dealership and the Eagles. A year-long commitment to the military community. It all comes to a big showcase piece on Sunday, 4:05 kickoff at Lincoln Financial Field. And we invite you to join us for the kickoff show presented by Exalta. And that begins at 3:15 on the website, our official app, and our social media channels. The kickoff show presented by Exalta. Fran, Amy Campbell. I'll be doing a hit from the stadium.
Yep.
And I think everybody's ready to get that first win at Lincoln Financial Field. 3 wins on the road, Fran. It's time to win at home.
Yeah, time to get a win at home and get the first winning streak. Eagles have not had 2 games consecutively here in 2021. So a big game from that respect as well this weekend.
And it's a different kind of challenge. We know that from the Detroit Lions last week. Fran, let's talk about the Chargers. They've lost games at Baltimore, then the bye week, and then last week they lose to New England. What is happening with this 4-3 team?
So one of the big issues they're having right now, offensive line-wise, I mean, they came into this season, Dave, having replaced 4 of their 5 starters. The 5th starter was Brian Bulaga, who missed most of last year at right tackle. So essentially, they were bringing 5 new starters along the offensive line for Justin Herbert. Now, what happened again? Brian Bulaga got hurt early in the season, so he's out for the year at right tackle. The right guard, Ode Abuche, that they brought in free agency, he got hurt. He's out for the season after an ACL injury. And so the guys that they've brought in right now, Michael Schofield is starting on the at right guard, and then at right tackle, they've got Storm Norton. That's been an issue for them in pass protection and in the run game. And the run game has been inconsistent for them this year in terms of the volume. They just haven't been running the ball at the extent that a lot of people would have expected, considering Austin Eckler and their ability to move the ball on the ground. So just some inconsistencies there along the offensive front. Look, Justin Herbert, he can make every single throw in the book. And when you go back to last year, you talked about all the accolades he had a year ago. He was putting up crazy over-the-moon numbers on 3rd down, on 3rd and long, against pressure. And some of that has kind of come back to earth this year. He was like 1st in the NFL in passer rating against pressure last year as a rookie, and he's down to about 20th this year. And so when you have that kind of a jump, you're going to get a little bit more inconsistencies, and so they just have not been able to capitalize on some of those. And so the blitzing, the pre-snap disguise, all those things have come to kind of hurt them this past month against 2 good defenses in Baltimore and New England.
How are teams playing Justin? What are they doing? Are they sending more pressure? Are they trying to flush him to the left? And what are they boxing him in? What are they trying to do?
A lot of it, what you've seen, especially these last 2 games against the Patriots and against the Ravens, have been a little bit extra pressure, but then also a lot of just changing up the look. So, Brandon Staley talked about it after the game last week against New England. Hey, we know they like to play single high. They like to play a lot of man coverage. Well, what did Bill Belichick do? They played a lot of zone coverage, and they still played some single high, but they played a lot of cover 3, and they're just kind of change up those looks. And anytime you can do that for a young quarterback, and that's something that we see with Jalen Hurts, right? As opposing defenses, they want to try and mix things up as often as possible. Now you're second guessing if you're a young quarterback. And while Justin Herbert has been outstanding, he's not immune to those kinds of confusions. So, and we're seeing that all around the league, with Patrick Mahomes, right? That's the kind of stuff that happens when you have a young quarterback. And so those are some of the issues that they're facing. They're going to see if they can rebound out of it. They haven't had a win in a month.
It really is. And this is a football team, I believe, they think they've got enough to play deep into the playoffs. And it sounds like the problems at the line of scrimmage, ding, 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 are impacting throughout the offense. At tight end, Jared Cook, still productive guy, something to worry about on Sunday.
No doubt. So the leading target getter is Keenan Allen. I think he's got something like 66 targets. Mike Williams right after that. And then you've got Austin Eckler and Jared Cook is right there. So this is a guy that can attack down the seam. They like him down in the flats as more of a check down as well. This is an offense. That's the thing too. While Justin Herbert can make any throw in the book, and there are every game he makes a throw that makes you kind of sit up in your seat if you're laying back, or if you're sitting up, you just kind of fall back and you're like, wow, like what a throw from this kid. But so often they kind of rely on the quick game. It's a timing based offense. They want the ball to come out fast, and so you're going to see those tight ends working underneath. You're going to see Keenan Allen working in some of those quick game routes. That's really what their focus is offensively.
Love it. Lane Johnson on the field, having fun. Yeah, asking for a flag here, working on his throwing motion. And it's just great to see Lane in his element, relaxed, focused, enjoying being around his teammates. And really what a success story, the way the Eagles have, been so supportive of Lane and how much he appreciates it. Mental health is something that impacts all of us. And so for Lane Johnson to be back on the football field really is much more important than anything else in terms of wins and losses.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to see him back in the building, and all the work that he's done publicly just over these last couple of weeks is awesome, and speaks to his character and how valuable or how much this means to him. It's just been great to see.
Eagles offensive line looks like it's going to have the same starters. We think Jack Driscoll back on the practice field after leaving the game early on Sunday. So if it holds, it would be Johnson at right tackle, Driscoll at right guard, Kelsey at center, and of course Landon Dickerson at left guard and Jordan Mailata at left tackle. Give me the update on Landon Dickerson and the progress that he's made. A guy who did not practice in training camp, didn't have anything in the spring, no preseason games. All of a sudden, he's out there on the field in the regular season, months after suffering a serious knee injury in college. How's he playing?
These last two games against the Raiders and against the Lions were outstanding, especially in the run game. I think when you look at his ability to just move people, especially when they have some of these downhill runs, they're running inside zone or power, and it's just let's get the back going downhill. That's where you see Landon Dickerson just at his best. And so whether he's working one-on-one or if he's working in tandem with Jason Kelsey or with Jordan Mailata, the movement that he has got at the point of attack has really been fun to watch. And so it's been fun to kind of see him settle in, because as you mentioned, no offseason for him whatsoever, no summer, no training camp, no preseason. So those first couple games were his preseason. Now getting his sea legs under him, really good to see.
Interested to a couple of names that jump out at me as I look at the depth chart of the LA Chargers. Nasir Adderley.
Yep, Philly kid.
Yeah, and Derwin James. How good are they as a tandem? We know about Derwin James individually, but with Adderley, who I think had some injuries early and is good to go now.
Yeah, it's a good tandem. And I think when you look at Adderley, this is a converted college corner. He again, Philly kid, went down to the University of Delaware as a corner and made the late transition to safety as a senior. And he was one of those risers throughout that pre-draft process that year, a couple years ago. And when you look at Adderley, his ability to play from depth and also match up at times in the slot, that gives them that interchangeable pair on the back end, because Derwin James could do anything. I mean, he lines up all over the place, 5 different positions off the edge. He's blitzing, he's filling the run, he's playing in the box, he's making plays from deep, or he's matching up against tight ends. He's just he's one of the best in the league without question.
So then explain to me, Fran, if the basic kind of scheme is similar with what the Chargers are running and with what the Eagles are running, do the Chargers use their safeties differently?
Yeah, I think just because the personnel is a little bit different, you will do some different things, and you're going to rely on when you have a freak talent like Derwin James, you're going to try and lean into that as best as possible, right? And so he can do so much, and so they're gonna put that on his plate. You don't necessarily see the Eagles safeties lined up off the edge one play as a pass rusher, and then the next play we're going to line up in the slot against Darren Waller and leave you one-on-one, and then the next play I'm going to play 30 yards off the ball as a high safety. That's where you're going to see Derwin James is just that versatility just shows up, and that's why he was viewed as one of the top players at his position coming out in the last decade or so.
Here we go. Nick Rallis, Eagles linebackers coach, is throwing himself literally into the drills here, Fran. Obviously tackle low, but I just feel like there's an injury waiting for Nick at some point here. I know he's only 26, but that after being hit by 7 or 8 guys, it's got to hurt at some point.
We'll see if he does this 4 years from now. I don't know if he'll always be the one taking the brunt of the action.
This is just not right.
But he he was my guest on Coach's Masterclass this summer, and we talked about some of these drills, and he actually took us through some practice footage where he said, this is how I teach it. This is what I want these guys to do. It's all about trying to attack downhill and take on blocks, defeat blocks. And he said, I want to be the one holding the pad, and I'm going to try and give them some pushback, but those guys are a lot bigger, a lot stronger, a lot more powerful than me, so I'm going to take the brunt of that more often than not.
It's just such an interesting group as they are developing in front of our very eyes here. Young group. TJ Edwards really coming on well, and obviously we talked about Davion Taylor and his upside. Alex Singleton's been a tackling machine. Sean Bradley getting a few reps here, Frank, which I really like to see.
Yeah, played a lot of the fourth quarter this past week, and he's got a lot of traits. We know how he was a really impressive athletic tester last year coming out of Temple. So just seeing him continue to get more reps on the defensive side. He was one of the leading tacklers in the summer during the preseason. Obviously got a lot of reps in those 3 games. So it was a good opportunity for Sean Bradley to get on the field last week in Detroit.
It's our continuing coverage of the Philadelphia Eagles 2021, presented by DraftKings. The tight end position, interesting to watch that guy right there, Tyree Jackson, who is 14 days-ish into his 21-day practice window opening. Yep. So by this time next week, Fran, I guess for next week's game against the Denver Broncos, and it could happen this week.
Yeah.
The Eagles are able to activate him to the 53-man roster, or he would remain on IR for the remainder of the year.
Yeah, and but obviously it would be a lot of fun to be able to watch, because this is a guy that really flashed on a daily basis over the course of the summer, not just in practice, but in preseason games when he got in early on before that injury. So really excited to see if he's able to get back out onto the field this season and be a factor here for this Eagles offense.
I just find it so interesting that veteran players, and there's Tyree Jackson right there, former college quarterback at the University of Buffalo, athletically gifted, absolutely, and as Fran said, was terrific in the summer. I find it interesting when I watch players like Richard Rodgers and Jordan Howard, and they're accomplished veterans in the league, and they're practice squad players, and you go, well, why aren't they on active rosters? Jordan Howard was available for any team to acquire after that extremely impressive performance in Detroit, where he was running over defensive players. He was running through defensive players. He was running angry. So Rodgers comes in, Howard comes in, and they just are they're so able to be ready at a moment's notice. Great lesson for a young player like Tyree Jackson.
No doubt. And when you have those veteran players, they understand that, hey, it's about opportunity and where can I most find that chance. And so Richard Rodgers, he's got a ton of opportunity here in Philadelphia over the last couple of years. Jordan Howard as well. Obviously working with this organization, 2 different coaching staffs, and having that level of success last week. Yeah, I'm going to try and stay here and see if I can continue to make an impact.
So the tight end group, productive in the wake of the trade, of course, Zach Ertz to the Arizona Cardinals. The Eagles, during the trade period, making 3 deals. And they send Zach Ertz, they send Joe Flacco, they get 2 draft picks, a young cornerback as well. And then, of course, on Tuesday, the Eagles, the ones making the acquisition, Kerry Vincent Jr. from the Denver Broncos, a 7th-round draft pick. Eagles sending a 2022 6th-round pick to the Broncos. What can you tell us about Kerry Vincent Jr.?
So Kerry Vincent Jr. has been on my radar for a few years now. He opted out last year. He was actually one of the first players to opt out of the 2020 season due to COVID-19. So he did not play a year ago, but he was a part of that LSU defense, the one that won the national championship with Joe Burrow and Justin Jefferson and that whole group down there at LSU. And when you watch him on film, number one, undersized, kind of a nickel corner / safety. He's played both over the course of his career. Well, I watched him in 2018 and 2019, as well as 2020, or not 2020, 2018 and 2019. Played both positions, and this guy was a track star, legit track star during his high school and even getting into his college years. He's got outstanding speed and quickness, all the athletic traits you're looking for. So that's a guy that, hey, look, he's got the traits. He didn't play last year. Do we have the ability to see if he can continue to groom and become a player for us down the road? An intriguing prospect, a developmental player, but an interesting prospect here moving forward for the Eagles.
The COVID sitting out, the opt-out hurt him, friend?
Yeah, I mean, just because you didn't get a chance to see him for a while. And I think when you're looking at the defensive secondary, a lot of people will look, especially at corner and nickel corner, as a learn-on-the-job position, right? You're going to get better by reps and reps and reps and reps. And so when you don't have that year of reps, and obviously, look, for good reason a year ago, when you don't have that level of reps, that's going to cause you to fall a little bit. So he ended up falling to the 7th round of last year's draft. We'll see. But he was a guy that I think for the last couple of years, he was on everybody's radar. I was like, yeah, you have to watch this guy moving forward because he's got all the traits to be an interesting player on the back end.
Yeah, and it's Scott, it's Gowan, now it's Vincent Young. Yeah. And you just hope to develop one, find one, and it can really bolster your roster.
That's it.
At a low cost.
And everybody's looking for corners. Everybody's looking for defensive backs in today's game. It's a passing league, so continuing to try and find that lottery ticket on the back end of the roster, it makes a lot of sense.
And also Zach McPherson, of course. The draft pick. Interesting move this week, Eagles, corresponding with that, waiving Brett Toth. Today they add him back to the practice squad. So a player the Eagles have liked, Brett Toth, another young developmental offensive lineman, remains a Philadelphia Eagle.
Yeah, has played a lot of tackle over the course of his career in the NFL, and then saw a little bit of guard time here late in the summer as well. So continue to watch him develop here on the practice squad.
We welcome you to our live practice coverage of the Philadelphia Eagles presented by DraftKings. Dave Spadaro, Fran Duffy with you on this Thursday. And we say goodbye. And we welcome you into our coverage when the Eagles take on the LA Chargers on Sunday at Lincoln Financial Field. Make sure you're with us at 12:15. The Exalta Kickoff Show live from the NovaCare Complex and Lincoln Financial Field. Thanks for joining, everyone. Have yourselves a great Eagles day. Fly, Eagles, fly, and go Birds!